Hello everyone and welcome to part 3 of the Photon Beam. So before we start, I'm just going to show you which part that is. It's the actual beam over here and the base that comes from the hand, the character's hand. I'll just rewind this a little bit so that we can see what the effect was like originally. Actually, I'll just move it back completely. We can watch all three parts. This is part 2 that we did in the last lesson and part 3 over here finally. So this is what we're going to be doing. And just like in a cooking show, we have the effect already done here, and what we're going to have as a final result should look like this. Yep. All right, so let's get started. So I've already got the project open over here. I'm just going to click stop and stop over here as well so that we can create a new effect and not have our view clustered by all this stuff happening there. And I want the effect to come from exactly the same position as our part 2. So while selecting part 2, which is Photon Beam Charge 1, you can just right click on the transform over here, click copy component, then you go on the new particle system and you can click paste component values. So now our particle system is exactly at the same place. All right, let's disable everything here as usual. And then let's rename this PS underscore Chrono Cross underscore Photon Beam Beam. I know it sounds weird, but yeah, for lack of a better description, that will be the name. Okay, now the very first element that we're gonna do is you know what? Let's start with the cool stuff. Let's start with the beam. I'm pretty sure if you've been following my lessons that you're dying to get to this part. So let's create a new effect, a new particle system underneath it. We'll call it beam. I'll call it outer beam back. So the reason I call it like this, well, my names are a bit different over here, but doesn't matter, is because as you can see, there's a distinctive part at the center that stands apart from like the outer layer. There's kind of like a transparent tube that surrounds it. And if I show you, this is the center, and then the back is this, and the front is, where is it? Outer beam front over here. And we need two different particle systems for this. This one, okay, this one is just deactivated. I'll explain to you why a bit later. So anyway, we'll start with the outer beam back. So first thing we're gonna do is disable the shape. We don't need this. We just need to emit from uh, just a point in space. And then in the renderer, we're gonna switch this to a mesh. We're gonna go in our meshes folder over here, and we'll get what's it called? Main beam. Wait, there's beam base, light rays, hard ground. Yeah, it's main beam. It's actually, yeah, I thought I would use more than one beam meshes, but a single one ended up working. And the size that we're gonna give it, well, before we change the size, let's actually make sure that the render alignment is set to local so that the beam is not always facing the camera. And then in our size, we'll give it a 3D start size. Our value will be 0.5, 0.5, and 10. So now we have this huge beam over here, and yeah, the material is what we need to work on now. So let's go to our material folder. Let's create a new material from scratch because last time during part 2, I there was a lot of oversights in the materials that kind of made the tutorial go in a strange way. Like we were working on stuff while other things were broken. So we'll call this VFX Chrono Cross beam outer beam. Oh, actually, I'll call it Photon Beam outer beam. Oh, one. All right. And we'll change the shader to our Chrono Cross master shader over here. Scroll down, make sure the render queue is set to 3000. Then go back up. Let's assign this material already so that we can see the changes as we do them. Outer beam over here like this. Okay. Um, Source is gonna be source alpha. This is gonna be 1 minus source alpha. All right, it's getting there. And our color, we're gonna put color gradient v index. We're gonna put a value of 1. So now we have that gradient that corresponds to the top of our gradient color over there. And finally, our texture is gonna be this one over here, the one with the wavy patterns in it. All right. So now that we have this, um, check in my already cooked beam. What else are the settings? We need to drop the alpha a bit. I had a value of 0.7 over here. Um, Use Fresnel, we're gonna activate it. We're gonna change something else in the use Fresnel later, but for now I'll just put this. Offset strength. The offset, what it does, as you can see, look, as I'm playing with the value, and if I click play afterwards, well actually not play, just need to get back on my material, I just need to give it a scrolling speed. As you can see, the mesh is being displaced, and this is because I built the shader so that depending on our white value of our main texture, the whiter it is, the more that it displaces the mesh outwards. And the mesh is made up of a lot of subdivisions, which means that this is kind of being shaky now. So yeah, our value is gonna be minus 0.05. It's very tiny, but I think you can see the effect. And our speed is actually gonna be minus 2.4. This is 3 and this is 2. All right. Now we've got the wave going through, passing through like this. Um, this over here, our alpha attenuation, we need to put a value of 0.1. And why is everything so bright? Let's turn on culling for the front so that we only get the back. The reason that we're gonna use two different emitters for the front and the back is that with transparent materials, sometimes Unity doesn't know, well, not just Unity, Unreal as well, engines in general, when there's like a single mesh, but that many faces of that very same mesh are overlapping and the material is transparent, it won't know which face should be in front and which face should be at the back. And the reason for this is because it doesn't necessarily write to the Z buffer, meaning that it's a kind of optimization that makes transparent effects render faster. So it's just a kind of workaround that we're doing. And yeah, why is my material so opaque? Oh yeah, of course, because we're spawning 10 of them. So we're gonna put a rate over time of 0, and we're gonna give it a burst of 1. That's already much better. It's a bit more transparent. Still ugly, if you ask me. We're gonna figure out what's wrong with the material right now. Why is it like this? David cut. Okay, yeah, that simple checkbox over here, red channel only. You just need to check this. Otherwise, it's trying to look for an alpha channel for the transparency. And if there's no alpha channel, it pretends that our alpha is completely white. So that we click red channel only so that just the black and white value controls the alpha as well. All right, so now we have this. There's a speed right now, which we don't need. We're gonna get rid of that start speed. And I'm gonna show you something neat. Right now, our Fresnel effect is on in the material, right? If I go here, we've enabled use Fresnel. And this means that any face that faces away, any face of the geometry that faces away is more transparent. For example, if I turn it off, like you can see the very sharp edge over there. If I turn it on, it gets a bit smoother. And if I were to increase the power, it would be even smoother now. Now, it looks good when we're looking at it from the side like this, but there's a problem with this, and it's if we're looking at the mesh from behind, well, now all of the faces are kind of facing away from the mesh, which means that it becomes almost completely transparent. And I made in the shader a setting for this, which is enable beam style Fresnel. So you can turn that on. And what it does is that it looks for a forward vector. As you can see, nothing changed yet because we're gonna need to tweak something. But it's gonna look for a forward vector, and that forward vector is pretty much gonna tell the Fresnel effect, ignore that direction. Uh, I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but first thing we need to do in order to make this work is to enable the custom vertex streams. And this, as I've explained before, is a way to send data from the particle system to the shader. And we're going to use these things in order to send our forward vector. Like I mentioned before, the order in which we put stuff is very important. That's why I put UV2 over here. Um, that's why I put anim blend. And you know what? I'm not even using these settings for this lesson, but it's just like when I'm using custom vertex streams and I'm using a custom shader, I like to have these over here because those are things that can be very useful. Um, then we're gonna use a stable random. This is here, stable random x. And then we're going to use velocity. Velocity is the vector that we're going to use in order to control the Fresnel. So right now there's no velocity at all, but if I give it a speed, as you can see, all of a sudden the Fresnel works that way for the upper part and the under part, the bottom part. But as we rotate the camera around the effect like this. And by the way, if you want to see, you see this number over here that changes like 1.8 and now 0.7. The way I do this is while I'm right clicking and moving with WASD in my scene, I can scroll up and down to change the sensitivity of my camera, of my view as I'm moving. So it's very convenient if I want to like position my camera in one precise location like this. All right. So yeah, so right now since we have some speed, it knows in which direction the beam is going for that Fresnel effect. But obviously, we don't want the beam to be moving forward like this. It's very weird. So in order to go around this, we can just give a tiny value over here. And it still understands that the speed is going that way. And why is the speed going that way? That's just Unity's default speed. It goes in the z-axis forward. Uh, if, for example, it was going in a different direction, and we needed to tweak it, we could just add the velocity over lifetime over here and put the same value over there, 0.001, and that would be it. And just to, like test that Fresnel effect even more, I'm gonna change the speed to a value in X. Now, as you can see, our beam style Fresnel is completely broken because the axis it's trying to ignore is not the right one. So I'll just put this back to 0.001. All right, so now this is the outer layer of our beam. Let's go back to our material. I think I forgot. Yeah, I forgot to put the culling back to the proper value. Right now, it's not bugging. It looks well, but for the times that it starts bugging, we're gonna turn on the front call because you never really know why it happens. Maybe it doesn't happen now, but then from a certain angle, the geometry is gonna be weird. Some faces that are meant to be at the back are now gonna appear as if they were on top, or maybe if we overlay more transparent elements afterwards, it's just gonna get revealed or something. So that's why we're gonna do the call thing. So I'm just duplicating this emitter. I can click restart to see it. And now I'm gonna go here. And you know what? I'll rename the material. It's called outer beam. I'll just add back. And now I'll duplicate this material. And the other outer beam will be front. I'll put in a number 01. All right, so this will be front. And now we just need to go here and change the culling to the back. So now we have pretty much what we had before we did that stuff, but it's a bit more robust. Like it's not gonna look weird. It's not gonna start crashing, not crashing, but looking weird. Now, new emitter will be, I just duplicated one of those beams, and I'm gonna call this one beam center. I'm gonna click restart so that we can see it. I'm gonna uncheck show only selected. And now it's time to work on the material for the center. So I'm just gonna duplicate this material over here, outer beam front, and I'm gonna call it center beam 01. Click this, I'm gonna assign the material, center beam 01, there, and call back, this is, no, I'm actually gonna change it to call front. And we're gonna use a different texture. For this one, we're gonna use our organic noise. Which one is it again? No, organic noise 01. You can already see a difference. See, like it added this kind of wavy thing on the inside. In fact, if I uncheck render, see the difference. And we're gonna change the size of the center. We're gonna put it to a value of 0.2 and 0.2 so that it's only over here. Like now you can see a distinct piece at the center of it. And let's go back to our material and we will change the tiling values. We'll put something like 1. So now it's like, looks like these stretchy lines. Let's take a look at the beam here again. Yeah, see how the center is made? It's kind of like made up of all this material that is kind of like lots of long lines. So as we change the tiling here, it stretches our texture across it like that. Let's add more lines. Let's put a value of 3. And the speed is way too fast. Let's try to make it fit more with the rest. So -1 gives a good effect. And let's check our properties over here. Fresnel power 2. alpha is gonna be 1. Our main text alpha attenuation. Alpha attenuation, what it does, let me just isolate this. And wait, yeah, I have to go from down here. All right, we can see it. And I'll stop the speed as well. So the alpha attenuation, what it does is it's pretty much making what is transparent more opaque by adding like some whiteness to it. So the alpha attenuation will be 0.6 and our offset strength 0.05. So now if I give it a small value, you can see the geometry is moving along with it as well. And let's put the speed back to what it should be, which is -1. Now if we stop isolating our view, we've already got this beam with the center over there. That's that. Let's go back up here in our settings. Let's actually control how long the beam is gonna last. Let's give it a lifetime of like 3.3. Let's give a lifetime of 3.3 to all 3 of our emitters over here. And let's check all the settings. It's emitting a single particle. That's good. Some velocity. We're gonna need some color over life. Whoops, not force. Color over lifetime. All right. And our curve is gonna look something like this. So it starts completely opaque and then it fades out. And the reason it's like this is because, for every particle in general, you need a way to make the particle come alive and a way to kill the particle to make it disappear. And the two main methods I use are either like you make it scale up or you make it fade in. And while it's dying, well, you make it scale down or you make it fade out. So we're going to use a combination of both. As the beam is appearing, we're going to scale it up, but only in the z-axis over here. And we're going to give it a curve that looks like this. Let's give it something straight, actually. Now if I click restart, there's a feeling that the beam is starting from somewhere and then going somewhere. And as it fades out, yeah, it will fade out, but it will also, actually I'm gonna use this curve. It will also scale down, but on the other two axes, which means that it's gonna get more thin, like this, yeah. And I'm just gonna copy these curves and put them on everything. Size over life, separate axis, space, paste. This one too. Size over life. Separate axis, space, paste. And I'm gonna copy this one as well. Alright, paste and paste. Now if I click restart and stop isolating that one. Yeah, we've got a good effect going on. So that's it for the for the beam itself. Now let's work on the base of the beam. So let me go here on this one. Let's see what we should do. Outer beam, back, base beam. Yeah, let's go with the base beam, which is we pretty much have the same particle over here in our beam charge. Let's just get our charge center, duplicate it, move it here, and I'm gonna call this beam center. Oh, whoops. I just saw my mistake at the same time. I kind of look at my keyboard when I'm working. Not all the time, but sometimes when I'm typing, I just, not necessary. I'm good at typing. We're gonna call it beam base center. just to make sure it has a different name from the other base. All right, so now we have this over there. We're gonna give it a constant size of 0.75. Uh, I mean a constant lifetime, sorry. Constant size of 4. Um, we're gonna give it a gradient for the start color. So towards the end of our duration of the emitter, it's gonna start getting more transparent, something like this. Gonna give it a value of 2.6 over here. And let's see, or it's 5, okay, that's good. Here I want a value of 1 because I want to make sure that as soon as the emitter is alive, a particle exists. If I set it to 1 particle per second, it's gonna wait 1 second before spawning the first particle. So that's why I always add a burst at the same time. All right. And then color over life. Let's see what we have here. It's looking good. This is the curve from my other project, by the way, just popping up there in front of our face. And the reason it was there, I'll just put this a bit more transparent in our start color. Yeah. All right, so I just tweaked the start color to make it a bit more faded. It it makes it makes the center of the effect a bit more see-through. Okay, so we have this. Now another element that we haven't worked with yet in any of the other parts is those light rays over there. I'll just go back here. I think you saw it as soon as he starts shooting before the camera changes right here. You see those light rays are already appearing and they're sort of rotating around. So we're going to create a whole new particle system for this. So particle system, I'm going to call this beam base light rays. All right, let's click restart to initialize the effect. We don't need a shape. We need to change our billboards to a mesh. I created, yeah, beam base light rays. You know what? I didn't even look at my mesh name and I instinctively gave it the same name in the emitter over there. This proves that when you're organized in your mind, I'm not always, but you know what? It's not that great, but I'm impressing myself right now. All the effect, nah. Just the fact that I come up with these names. Anyway, whatever. All right, let's create a new material. I'll duplicate a glow because I think one of the glows is like closest we have to what we're gonna do. So let's call this beam base light rays. Oh, one. It doesn't need to have an S. All right. Blah blah blah. Let's go here. Oh, why is the camera moving all the way there? All right. Okay, so let's give it our new mesh beam base light ray. I mean our new material. And now, render alignment. Oh yeah, we probably have like bad rotation or something. Beam base. No, no, we don't have any issues with the rotation. Let's click restart. Okay, so there should be a bunch of them right now. What is going on? Off. Not fixing it. Maybe it has to do with texture. Aha, there it is. All right. Okay, so obviously we don't want anything to be moving. We want everything to be in one exact spot here. But what will be different though is their start rotation. So notice we don't need a 3D start rotation because the effect is facing us at all time. Like I can rotate around the effect like this and it's always facing up. So if I don't check 3D start rotation, whenever we input a value here, it just rotates around based on the angle of the camera. And what I can do is I click here and I can put random between two constants. And I'll just put a 360 over there. And now every time I click restart, they have different rotations. All right. So the type of movement that we're gonna give, well, actually, let's start by making them fade out, and let's also give them the proper lifetime. Lifetime, I don't want all of the light rays to be to have exactly the same lifetime. It's kind of boring to it's not chaotic enough, I would say, because life, you don't have control over everything. Throw a bomb, it's not gonna be always the same. You flash a light, I don't know, some light rays are not gonna go straight. They will, but they are, some of them are gonna have different strengths, different lengths. All right, like this. Okay, now, color over life. Gonna make those fade out, fade in and fade out. So, you know what? Maybe not fade in. Let's just do it like this. All right, so they fade out. And let's give them let's animate their size over life as well. Yeah, this is looking pretty cool. Cool, pretty cool. But I'm gonna separate the axis. I want I want them to actually get thinner and fade out as well. Yeah, yeah. And then I'm gonna give this a curve as well. Sorry, that. And yeah, yeah, yeah. It's gonna like this. All right. What I'm saying is not very descriptive. Should look at what I'm doing. So I tweaked the alpha, made sure that the first key is transparent, so it fades in really fast, then fades out slower. Size over life, I did some stuff over there. It gets thinner as it dies, and it scales up as it dies as well. But it doesn't start exactly completely. Uh, it doesn't start from a scale of 0. What I want to say. So as they appear, they're already uh, they're already at a certain size, and now I'm just making the rays a bit more transparent. So now it gives us this type of effect over here. And what we need, the other thing we need is a rotation over lifetime. And we're gonna give it a random value between -100 and 100. All right. That's not looking bad. Yep, yep, pretty good, pretty good. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention that the reason that the beam fades out at the base and also at the end is because I baked the Vertex Alpha in the mesh, so that we don't need to use uh, a gradient texture to mask those two tips. I'm probably gonna make a video eventually about like modeling for VFX because to be honest, to be frank, I spent lots of hours doing those meshes and importing them in Unity, finding out that they're not working so well, and then going back and forth, and then also doing the same thing with like my texture authoring program. Uh, there's a lot of work under the hood that you don't see in this tutorial because all the meshes are already there, the textures are already there, the shader is already created. I also create the shader depending on my need as I go while I'm preparing the whole thing. I'm pretty sure like that I spent like 30 hours doing that effect. before I came to like an acceptable result. All right, so now we have this. Um, Now we're gonna work there's more stuff at the center. Let me just get back here and play the effect again, like that. Yeah, we have this kind of wavy thing over here. Let's try to find out what name I gave it. Base center, base texture. There it is. All right, we're gonna work on this element now. It looks a lot like what we had in the charge effect. So let's go in our charge effect and find, yeah, exactly that thing over there, which we called oh what, ground base. I just never renamed it. I'll rename it right now. I'm gonna call it textured center. Oh yeah, and what I just did right now, the override thing, is because this effect is a prefab, right? But what I want to do is to make sure that the name change I just did was applied in the prefab and not just locally in the scene. Because I could change some properties and just save my scene. It would remember those property changes, but only for the effect that exists in the scene. If I were to drag another prefab into the scene, it wouldn't have these changes. So let's duplicate our textured center over there. Let's put it in in this over there. Let's make sure everything is stopped. All right. Okay, restart. All right, there it is. And now we have this thing over there. We're gonna go and duplicate the material. We're gonna name it. Okay, that was noisy energy. Well, now it changed name. We're gonna call it texture. Wait, first of all, no, we're gonna call it beam textured center. I'm not proud of my name. I don't deserve the praise I gave myself earlier. Beam textured center. All right. And now let's go here. We don't need have the start size animated. I'm gonna give it a size of 1. And we're just gonna have to change our speed settings over here like that, and our tiling. And oh, actually, I think we need to change texture as well. Yeah, let's give it this texture. Getting closer. 5. Speed will be minus 1.5. Here, 0.2. Have this gradient over here. Fine. Is that all there is to it? It looks to me like it's different over here. Maybe it's just like an illusion. Probably has to do with transparency. Actually, okay, the effect by itself looks like this. And if I check this effect by itself, it's too white, and I know why. It's because of our color value, which is blasted intensity is set to 9. I'll give it something like this. Value of 2. Uh, have any change like animation? Yeah, 6. Oh, and of course, keep spawning them. Just need to spawn a single one. Or is that it? Let's make sure before I speak out of my rear. Yeah, just one particle like that. And our color over life is gonna be like this. Fades towards the end. but we're gonna change our start alpha to something like that. Oh yeah, it's looking pretty close to this, right? Yep. So easy when you're just copying. But I'm copying myself, so it's fine. All right, so now we have this particle over here. There is something weird going on. There is a size over lifetime that is king constantly. Don't need this. We're just gonna make it grow at the start. So I'm gonna put this to flat. It's kind of a bit too slow. And there is something else we need to do on our beams over here, beam back, front, and center. And this is to give it a slight delay so that the effect that you have in the hand kind of explodes first before the beam explodes after, like this. All right, now go back here. Next element we need is that yellow circle around. And the reason I put this is because in the effect, as you can see, there is a bit of a, like, well, depending on where you look, well, the hit effect that happens on the enemy has it too. Uh, there's this, we see it here very well, actually. Even in the charge up, they have it, but I decided not to have it in the charge. But there's, yeah, this yellow reddish thing. I guess maybe it's supposed to represent maybe sun or something. It's a light effect. Yeah, anyway. Let's just do that thing now. So textured center. I'll just remove that one over there. And now I'll just duplicate this and I'll call it yellow ring. Now we can click restart. Now there's two of them overlapping, but it's okay. We're just gonna make some tweaks. First of all, we already have a mesh that represents the ring, but I just saw over here that I'm not using the ring mesh. I'm just gonna go blindly copy what I have in my other project. I'll just duplicate our beam textured center. I'll call it beam yellow ring. And I will apply this material, beam yellow ring. Alright. And now in the settings over here, first thing I can do is I can change this value for the gradient, and I'm gonna give it a value of 0.6 this time. I change the texture to this one, and you know what? I'm just gonna isolate this so that we only see this, and I'll just go into material from down here so that we can keep looking at it. And now it all comes down to our tiling settings. Right now, as you can see, actually I'm gonna get rid of the speed. If I change the tiling, you can it grow this, but what I'm gonna do a value of 0. And now if I give this a speed, it's doing that effect. I actually want to give it a negative value. And there's a 0.2 there. So, next thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna keep this to 0 for now, is our mask over here. We can also modify the tiling over here. 1.5, and then I'm gonna offset this like that. -5. Now, if I put the -1 over 0.2, we have this yellow ring thing. Let's copy our material properties from the other project, 0.3 right here. That's it for the material. Now, if we Get rid of this. We have this cool pulsating effect. And let's restart. I think there's something weird in the center. If I look at my other project, some of the elements are they have different draw orders. All right, I figured out what's wrong. Our beam center. Actually, earlier I said that we should call the front, but we should call the back. See what it does here. Now it looks a bit more like the beam is actually coming from the center. This. And let's check our ring. Yeah, if we give it a priority in layer, uh, order in layer, put a value of 1 over here. Now the yellow part is tiny bit more visible, discernible. Still have a few things to do in terms of how the particles fade out and such. Our light rays, for example, we should animate the way that they disappear, I think. Light ray. Just see what I did in the project. Yep. I actually gave a gradient. So our alpha is 107 right now. Let's have our start color as a gradient. It's 107. And as the particle system starts to disappear, will spawn completely well, if it does spawn a particle at exactly 3 seconds, it's going to be completely invisible. So now let's look at what it does. Yeah, it no longer spawns rays that are very opaque. It was doing some sort of clash at the end. Now it doesn't anymore. And we need just one final element to all of this. And this is a simple ring when the effect starts. Gives it a bit more impact. So we already have a ring right in here, ready ring, the end. I'll just duplicate the ready ring, put it in our photon beam theme. We'll call it start ring. We'll remove the delay, and rather than having it shrink towards the center, oh, you know what? Our beam over here, give it a color over life. Yeah, our outer beam. I believe I never gave them their right color over lifetime. I'll just paste the same one from the center, type here. But at the same time, I want to have a tiny where it's transparent like this. Alright, now if we look at it in slow-mo, I like it better like that. Alright, getting back to our ring now. Instead of shrinking, we're gonna make it expand. We're gonna change that curve to something like this. What is it? Like that. How about something like that? Okay, it's a bit better. Let's copy the curve I had in my other project. I actually had something like that flat over here. Then it scales up really fast, but kind of linear at the same time, so that as the particle will disappear, we will still have like the impression that the scaling up was continuing. Let's revert our alpha keys over here like this, alright. And I think I could put a key at the center and make it a bit more transparent so that it's even more smooth. Something like this maybe. Oh yeah, this is looking good. I'm gonna give it a tiny delay. Change the value, change the size. All right. I guess that looks good. Yeah, that's it. How long have I been recording? Actually can't see. I'm gonna have to stop the recording and see how long it took. But I have a feeling that this lesson, the actual beam and everything else, went faster than the other parts of the effect. Let's actually look at the entire thing. And now it fades out. Cool. Let's save our project, people. Let's go in particles, create a prefab out of this. Well, the lesson is not exactly complete right now. We still have something. Did I see a particle restarting? I did. All right, that's because we have looping time over here. Let's uncheck those. All right, now that we've done this, apply the change to our prefab. And we're gonna create a timeline so that all of our elements are synced. So yeah, I'll just close this. In case you don't have this tab over here, you can go to Windows, Sequencing, Timeline. Now you have this, you can drag it down here. You're gonna have to create a new object. So in the hierarchy over there, you just right click, create empty. I'm gonna call this timeline. And we're gonna click in the timeline window over here, you can just click create. And it's gonna ask us to give it a location in the project. So I'll just go at the root of the project, which is in assets. I'm gonna right click to create a new folder. I'm gonna call this animations, just animation. Yeah, and timeline.playable. I'll call it Photon Beam. Well, timeline underscore photon underscore 01. All right, let's click save. Now, the way this thing works is, first of all, in the window, click the lock over here so that you can click other objects and you don't lose the focus. Because otherwise, what happens is that, okay, this object has a timeline, but this one has no timeline. Do you want to create one? I don't care. I just want a single one in my scene. So lock this thing. And now what we're going to do is we can just drag some of our elements down here and we're going to put some activation tracks. So an activation track, what it does is that for this duration over here, the object is active. And if I go out, it's no longer active. So we're just going to click play. Actually, let's click play here. Our particle system, let's check the playback time down here. It looks like it lasts for 2 seconds 95, something like this. By this time, pretty much everything is almost dead. So you can change the time over here to seconds. Let's give it a longer value. It doesn't matter if it's still active, even though some of the particles are dead, but it gives us an idea of when we need to play the next element. We'll put an activation track here as well. Let's do the same thing again. Let's click restart and see how long the effect lasts. Okay, right down to our little point over there. It's 3 seconds 13. So suppose that we started at 3 seconds, would be like this, 3 seconds 30, just sure. And our final, okay, our final particle, well, we don't need to sync anything after it, so it doesn't matter. We can just drag it there like this and click save. Right now, nothing's working. You can scroll through it. You can click play. You don't really see stuff playing. That's because we're gonna have to be in play mode in order to see this. Uh, all we need to do now is let's turn on the gizmos first, and we're just gonna have to orient our camera. Uh, Why am I not seeing? Okay, yeah, if you're not seeing what the camera sees, like a kind of outline of what it should be seeing, you can just open up the camera component over here. Now you can see the whole thing. You can see like the field that it looks at. And I'm just using the preview over here as where my camera should be. And the reason we need a camera is because when we're in play mode, the actual camera, the actual view that we see in game view over here, like here I can put them side by side, is what our camera sees. See? Like that. All right. Just gonna click play over here. Uh, gonna activate these ones. Just click start on everything, and just so I can place my camera in a satisfying place. And up here where you see global, I'm gonna put it to local so that I can rotate exactly in the axis of my camera. Put it back to global to sort of turn it around in the Y like this. Right? Now if I click restart on everything, okay, let's click save and gonna undock this and put it as a full screen. Disable my Gizmo preview because I don't want to see those annoying icons, and click play. Yeah, looking good. I don't know why the sun appears like that. It's so annoying. Just gonna move it up. Stupid sun. And gonna tweak these a bit. Let's click save. And you know what? In our actual timeline file that we put in animation over here, click on it, and pretty sure there's a place where I can say that I want this to be looping forever. Okay, you just have to do it in the inspector over here when you have the timeline selected. Play on awake, yeah, initial time, blah blah blah. Wrap mode, loop. So now if you click play, the effect should be looping infinitely. So you can keep watching it as much as you want. Yay! So that's it, guys. That's it for the photon beam.